Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. A 10-year mystery could be solved because of a discovery in Tennessee. A Steuben County teen went missing in 2011, and now there could be a break in the case. Maggie Hall spoke exclusively with the missing person's mother.
It was here in Addison where Nico Lisi was last seen alive by his family on September 30th, 2011. Now, 11 years later, skeletal remains have been found in the area of Tennessee where Nico was last reported. Today, I spoke with Monica Button, Nico's mom, about this possible development in the cold case.
For the authorities to call me, it was pretty alarming.
Monica continued to wait for more information from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agent who is handling her son's case.
I will say that, for a couple days, just on edge every minute, waiting, to hear from him again.
Nico was Monica's second born.
He was my wild one. He very into sports, very outdoorsy. He had a heart of gold when it came to his friends, his family.
Nico's phone last pinged in Franklin, Tennessee. 5 years later, the truck he was last seen in was found stripped completely in a garage in Nashville. I asked Monica if the remains do turn out to be Nico's, if that will bring some closure to her and her family.
When I personally hear the word closure, to me it's like you're reading a book. And when you're done with a book, you close it. When I think about my son and his life and our lives together, that is something that will never be closed for me. It's a resolution to my problem.
Monica believes that her son is no longer alive.
But the bottom line is someone didn't like my son, and someone did something to my son and took him away from us.
Monica urges anyone who may want to help to join the Search for Nico Lisi Facebook page. Anyone with information on Nico's disappearance is urged to contact the New York State Police immediately. Maggie Hall, Big Fox News, Addison.
The Chemung County Jail will lift its COVID restrictions for inmates on Friday. The jail had cut visitation to inmates in early 2020. This was for the safety of both the inmates and the staff. Visitation will start December 2nd. Visitation days are Monday and Friday between 6:45 a.m. and 1:15 p.m. An annual Sweet community exhibit is now on display at Rockwell Museum. Big Fox's Josh Feldberg takes us to the Gingerbread Invitational opening reception.
The Rockwell Museum in Corning hosted their 8th annual Gingerbread Invitational. The event is a fun, artful gingerbread competition for baking enthusiasts and community members of all skill levels. Big Fox spoke with one of the artists about this year's competition.
My gingerbread creation is called Gingerbread Inception. So it's a gingerbread house that has inside of it a gingerbread family building their own gingerbread house, that has inside of it a gingerbread family building their own gingerbread house, and like one more level of gingerbread family and gingerbread house.
7 beautiful gingerbread creations are on display in the showroom, each artist with their own inspiration behind their piece.
And I always just really like baking. So, baking Christmas cookies around the holidays is always really fun for me. So we just wanted to kind of do something together as a team, my husband and I, and it was really, it was a fun time.
Museum visitors can vote on which one of the creations is their favorite. You can check out the creations for free during the holiday open house event on December 3rd and 4th.
Just come down. There's a lot of really great, creative gingerbread houses that folks made. So it's just a really fun time to see everyone's creativity.
The winning creation will be announced on January 6th. Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News, Corning.
Pennsylvania fishing licenses for the 2023 season are now available. The Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission announced starting today, fishing licenses, permits, and vouchers can be purchased online or at the over 700 retail licensing agents. Licenses purchased online can be saved digitally to your smartphone and serve as proof of possession. Congress is one step closer to heading off a huge railroad strike, but the Senate is on the verge of blowing a White House deadline to finish the job. Doug Luzader has more.
Now, the president is dispatching 2 cabinet secretaries to meet with Democratic senators here as the administration is quickly running out of time to stop a strike.
1. Here we go! Yeah, okay!
President Biden helping switch on the national Christmas tree last night, just as we are days away now from the railroads hitting the off switch. A strike deadline is about a week away.
The president believes that a bill averting a rail strike needs to reach his desk by this weekend. He is very clear about that because we need to protect the American families from a potential devastating effects of a rail shutdown.
Yesterday, the House did what the president asked, and in a bipartisan vote, they passed the tentative agreement that the railroads and union leaders had agreed to back in September. But 4 of the 12 unions had ultimately rejected that deal, holding out for sick time. And while the House also passed a second measure to add 7 sick days to the deal, that will face resistance in the Senate, and it goes beyond what the president has pushed for. Today, the Secretaries of Labor and Transportation will huddle with Senate Democrats, already offering some dire warnings if this doesn't get done.
So within a matter of days, you could see, for example, chlorine not reaching water treatment plants and people in American cities being told they have to boil water or use bottled water.
And there is some bipartisan opposition here from some conservatives who think Congress shouldn't get involved, and from some progressives who think this is a bad deal for workers.
That's just not right, and that's not what Congress should be imposing on anyone.
And in the Senate, you need to reach that critical 60-vote threshold, which means this deal will require some bipartisan support. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
More homes available, but same high prices in 2023. That's the prediction from a key real estate company. Realtor.com predicts a drop in home prices may not happen fast as expected next year. In fact, the realty company says it expects prices to stay high for the first half of the year, then ease out. It says mortgages could jump up to 7.4% during that time period. That means the monthly mortgage payment could be 28% higher next year compared to this year. TikTok under the microscope on Capitol Hill as lawmakers investigate the social media app's connection to China. That story plus your forecast next.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, we flipped over the calendar page and stepped into December, which we had some quieter weather around, even some sunshine working out of some of those overcast skies, as there was that cloud cover development due to some lake effect snowfall across Lake Erie. Now, looking at December's normals here for Elmira, the data that we were able to pull in here notes that precipitation does total up still to about 2.5 inches. Now, some of that's rain, but that does equate to some of the snowfalls. We get to that season where it is an average to see some snow here across the area, which is upwards of about 8 inches. Snowiest day we've had in December brought us 18 inches, or almost 19 inches, I should say, back in 2020. Our average temperature does fall below that freezing threshold at 30.5 degrees, and then the warmest it's ever been in December is 69 degrees, but that spread is far here for December as we see that the coldest is down to 16 below, just set back in 1980. So we'll keep an eye on some of those normals. However, what we're continuing to see is that some more pleasant conditions will persist as we step into the second day of December. Through the overnight, we hold temperatures just around those upper to mid 20s, winds still out of the south and on a calmer trend, so still looking at pretty pleasant and quiet conditions. Near seasonal when we drop into those mid 20s for low temperatures here across portions of the Finger Lakes down into northern portions of Pennsylvania. Quiet Friday with some seasonal sunshine around. More peaks of that sun will be persistent. We see that though it is going to be a fairly active weather pattern here for this pretty much first week of December, as rainy weather is back on store on Saturday. Now, not a washout forecast, more just some light rainfall, but some gusty winds will be mentioned. Also note that we have some active weather to quickly follow that into the early next week, including some rain and even some snowfall. So there's some cooler temperatures that will be associated with this next swing in the pattern. Now we have seasonal day setting up Friday, looking at 44 degrees for a high temperature under some partly cloudy skies. Winds 5 to 10 miles per hour to the south, which is helping us keep that seasonal trend at least in place. And then there will be some of that strengthening wind into Saturday, where there will be some more warming and store. So all the way through the Finger Lakes, we climb into those mid-40s. Manfield and Westfield just around those lower 40s in place. So everybody looking at least seasonable with that sunshine. Now Saturday, we do see even warmer temperatures in place. You do see those 50s. Now, although we have the 50s, you're going to have to battle those impacts of talking about some light showers as well as some stronger winds that will be upticking. Now, not going to need some alerts. There are some high wind concerns across closer to areas of Lake Ontario as well as closer to Lake Erie, but we see that through the Finger Lakes and down into Pennsylvania, we generally see wind gusts 30, upwards of 40 could be a possibility. So not expecting widespread wind alerts, but the possibility of noting that as we get wind gusts into the 30s, especially with those holiday decorations, you want to make sure that those are secure. Now, we're only going to accumulate around a few tenths of an inch as we head into that Saturday forecast, and then we cool behind it at 39 for a high on Sunday, but then we have another round of some of those wintry mixed conditions possible Tuesday and Wednesday.
The disgraced founder of fallen crypto exchange FTX says he didn't do anything illegal. Layoffs hit CNN, and Spotify releases its top podcast of 2022. CJ Papa has today's Fox Business Briefs.
The former FTX CEO speaking out for the first time since his cryptocurrency company's collapse. Sam Bankman-Fried denying any criminal wrongdoings. But he says the company failed to safeguard investor funds. $1 billion is missing from FTX, while another $10 billion was transferred to sister company Alameda Research. Bankman-Fried still denies knowingly commingling funds. CNN announcing it is laying off employees and paid contributors. It's the latest shakeup for the cable network after Warner Brothers Discovery took ownership of the cable news franchise from AT&T earlier this year. Meanwhile, retailer H&M says it's cutting 1,500 jobs from its global workforce. This as retailers around the world face pressure from high inflation and weakening consumer demand. The Joe Rogan Experience takes the top spot as Spotify's #1 podcast of the year. It's the second consecutive year the podcast host holds the #1 slot since going exclusive with the company since 2020. Clicking in at #2, Alexandria Cooper's Call Her Daddy. And at #3, Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain. That's business. I'm CJ Papa.
House Republicans are going after the social media site TikTok. They say the company is lying about its connections to China and how it uses its tracking software. Gillian Turner has details.
House Republicans are accusing TikTok of lying about its surveillance of Americans. In a letter to the company's CEO, lawmakers are renewing their request for information about the social media platform's privacy practices relating to China. In a September briefing, bipartisan lawmakers were told, 1, TikTok does not track users' internet data while not using the application, and 2, China-based employees do not have access to U.S. users' location-specific data. Based on news reports, lawmakers say both claims appear to be misleading at best and, at worst, false. The accusations are prompting renewed national security concerns.
TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is effectively controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That means not only can they track your location, collect your keystrokes, but they could also censor your news.
In the Senate, there's bipartisan agreement.
TikTok is one of the most massive surveillance programs ever, especially on America's young people.
All of that data that your child is inputting and receiving is being stored somewhere in Beijing.
Now South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is banning state employees from using TikTok while using government devices. Former President Trump enacted a similar ban for all federal employees back in 2020. President Biden reversed that ban last year and is now considering whether to allow TikTok to remain operational in the U.S. at all. Earlier this month, the head of the FBI reinforced the risk of using Chinese-owned social media apps.
Chinese companies are required to essentially basically do whatever the Chinese government wants them to in terms of sharing information or serving as a tool of the Chinese government.
Lawmakers are now holding the social media giant to a December 6th deadline to respond to a request for more company documents. In Washington, Jillian Turner, Fox News.
Well, don't expect to catch a break from the rising prices for streaming services. A report says streaming services are facing cost realities of producing and distributing content. They're forced to either embrace advertising, raise prices, or lose subscribers. Companies like Netflix keep adding to a content library, but don't license out content to other platforms. Disney paid for an unnamed licensing agreement but had to take a loss, forcing price raising and advertising. HBO Max and Discovery merged, but content is being dumped, movies are being added, and prices will likely go up. Coming up after the break, how worms are helping doctors in the fight against cancer. The early detection of cancer can help save lives, and now researchers in Japan say they've created the first ever early detection kit for pancreatic cancer. It's a unique process using, get this, tiny worms to try and identify the hard-to-diagnose disease. Anita Vogel takes a special look.
Tiny worms could help detect initial signs of pancreatic cancer. That's according to Japanese researchers who say they've developed the world's first early screening test for the disease.
What's very important with early detection of cancer and these kinds of diseases is being able to sense very trace amounts.
And that's exactly what these worms do. Measuring in at 1 millimeter in length, about the thickness of a credit card, the worms are a species of nematodes, round worms with exceptional smelling capabilities, better than humans and dogs. Users send urine samples to a lab where scientists genetically modified the worms to swim away from cancer samples.
There are various types of cancer tests using different methods around the world, but none have a method using capabilities of living organisms. So I want to raise the understanding of that around the world.
If the results show a high risk for cancer, patients can undergo additional testing to avoid false positives. In the U.S., pancreatic cancer is the 4th leading cause of cancer death in men and women. The worm test costs a little more than $500. Researchers are hoping to have it available in the U.S. sometime next year. They're also aiming to develop tests for liver, cervical, and breast cancers in the future. Anita Vogel, Fox News.
Well, DNA testing kits could help Holocaust survivors unlock the secrets of their past and possibly help them identify family members lost and separated because of the Nazi atrocities during the World War II. Matt Finn reports.
They survived with their lives, but not with their histories.
DNA testing kits could help Holocaust survivors find and identify long-lost relatives after families were ripped apart during World War II.
Survivors who are around today were children, and they're the ones who are more likely to have come through without knowing their family history.
In New York City, the Center for Jewish History is spearheading the DNA Reunion Project, giving hundreds of free kits to Holocaust survivors and their children who apply online.
The number of Holocaust survivors in the world is dwindling every year. Their time is really running out to restore some of that lost history.
Officials hope this will provide justice for families at a time when they say hate speech is gripping the nation.
As we know from recent headlines, not only is anti-Semitism on the rise, but also Holocaust denial is on the rise.
Meanwhile, in London, a DNA kit has already helped Holocaust survivor Jackie Young learn about his past. Young was adopted by an English family after spending years in a Nazi internment camp.
My mother, my father, and the family were taken away on trains and murdered. It opened a door that I thought would never get opened, the fact of who was my father.
Before broader access to DNA kits, many Holocaust survivors needed to comb through paper documents and historical archives to try and find any limited family information. Matt Finn, Fox News.
We'll be right back. And of course, we want to leave you with a smile tonight. Hot Pockets will soon release new shorts to keep your pockets warm this winter. Hot Pockets and Columbus Fashion Alliance collaborated to make the cargo shorts. It has an insulated pocket, which is labeled hot, and insert sandwich here. The other pocket is labeled cold. The company is also releasing a matching hoodie. They will be available starting December 12th. Fans will also get a coupon for one Hot Pocket sandwich. I'm Harriet Wallace. Thanks for watching.